Welcome back everybody to Extreme Off-Road Silly Bills, and today we're dealing with the 2022 Hyundai Kona N. So this now has 668 horsepower, 682 pounds-feet of torque from a 2-litre turbocharged inline-4 engine. The car itself now weighs 2,835 pounds, has all-wheel drive, off-road tyres and off-road suspension, and it can now do 0 to 60 in 2.653 seconds, 0 to 100 in 5.463 seconds, and go to a top speed of 204 miles an hour, although the top speed is unlikely to be much of a factor into this car's success on this series. But still, these stats overall are pretty good, especially the off-road capability, braking, launch, acceleration and speed. Handling is a little bit on the low side of things, and all-wheel drive cars that, well, front-wheel drive cars that have now been turned into all-wheel drive cars for this series do tend to worry me a little bit, because they were never meant to have power going through those rear wheels, and it can sometimes upset the balance and the handling. So yeah, they do tend to be quite oversteery, and because front-wheel drive cars are typically quite small, you know, they have a small wheelbase and whatnot, they can easily snap oversteer, which is always an issue, especially when you're going down an off-road course at speed. So hopefully that won't be the case, and it might well hopefully also beat the Wuling from the previous episode, which despite its issues still got into 80th position, which was a fairly decent showing given everything that was going against that car. Whereas with this car, it's a bit more normal, it's a more normal sized vehicle. It did have some, ride height to start with, being a crossover SUV, so this isn't completely out of the realm of its abilities, but it certainly has way more power than it ever had originally. It's talking about at least twice the power, and certainly more in the way of acceleration and speed. You can get to 0 to 100 nearly as quickly as we can go to 60 in the stock form, so it just shows how fast this car is now. But yeah, this should be a little bit more normal, a little bit more easy to drive than the Wuling was, given, that car was well and truly out of its comfort zone, whereas this, like I said, isn't quite as much, despite the additional power and acceleration it's got going on. It's pretty good down there at 170. This has really rather good brakes as well. Unfortunately, this is the only engine you can swap into this car. The standard engine does get upgraded decently, but you don't get quite as much power or torque out of it than you do with this engine that's swapped in. So unfortunately we don't get any V8s or anything like that, which is again typically the case with front-wheel drive cars on this game. They usually have a very limited amount of engines to use, which is a little bit of a shame. Does curtail any kind of experimentation and freedom to do what you wish with this game, but I can see why. Most cars that are front-wheel drive at the end of the day are not got a lot of room up front. And even though this game doesn't always strive for realism when it comes to swapping certain engines in, it would at the end of the day be expecting quite a lot to stick a V12 in a Clio at the end of the day, wouldn't it? So that's probably why. This car here is dealing with this pretty well. So a couple of moments where it's oversteered a little bit too much, but we haven't completely spun out or spun around, so not too worried about that right now. And because, this is a car meant for city driving and at reasonable speeds, it's reasonably agile. And no, it doesn't weigh all that much either. Not that much weight to turn in either. The heavy dose of torque is also going to be helpful, considering all the hills and whatnot. Plus the fact it's quite lightweight, so the more torque you've got, the more punch you've got out of corners, which is always useful. But this is going to be reasonably quick by the looks of things. Far faster than I expected. But it's quicker than the Wuling by more than 4 seconds. and at 3 minutes 18.175, that is one of the better times that we've had from a car on this series. It's not the best by any means, but that does put it just outside of the top 50. It puts it into 52nd place, beating a Nissan Fairlady Z from 2003, as well as an Audi RS e-tron GT, a Cupra Tavascan Concept, a Lamborghini Cyan Roadster, and a Bath 695 Biposto, McLaren 620R, and a Cupra Urban Rebel Concept. We are ever so slightly behind a Nissan GT-R Nismo and a McLaren 765 LT. But yeah, considering this is Hyundai's first showing on this series, that is really, really good, quite frankly. So yeah, hopefully the Hyundai Ioniq 6 will do as well, if not better. But I'm pretty sure we can't upgrade that car in terms of horsepower all that much. So that is going to be something that will hold that car back. But being an electric car, it should have plenty of punch out of the corners, and obviously being electric, the power is pretty much always there. But as far as this Kona goes, that is, yeah, really rather impressive for a car that was originally less than 300 horsepower and a normal standard SUV crossover with only front wheel drive. Yeah, that's done really rather well. The all-wheel drive system didn't play havoc with the handling and the balance too much. Had really rather great acceleration, was getting up to really solid speeds as well. And yeah, at the end of the day was agile and yeah, dealt with the off-road elements fine. So yeah, exceeded my expectations, to be honest. I was expecting it to be a little slower and a little bit more of a handful, but thankfully it was not neither of those. But nonetheless, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.